Craig Morgan joins us here on Stet as we move from Studio K to Studio A. Having a great little offseason here. Craig, your latest article, Cardinals tight end Trey McBride chasing Jackie Smith's legend. Can you inform our audience? We got a little bit of a younger crowd who Jackie Smith is, where he stands in Cardinals history.
I need to find out from Johnny, too. Your dad has a connection to Jackie Smith. We'll get to that in a minute. But
yeah,
Jackie Smith is a Hall of Fame tight end. That's who he is. Did his work with the St. Louis Cardinals, and man, did he do some work in an era where tight ends weren't necessarily the first option or the second option in the passing game. He still holds the record for receiving yards by a tight end in Cardinals franchise history, and he did it on only 56 catches, which just blows me away when I look at those numbers.
1,200 yards that year. I think it was in 1967 with I don't know if Jim Hart was his quarterback back then. I can't remember who was throwing him the football, but here's what you need to know if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan. Jackie Smith is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's not in the Ring of Honor for the Arizona Cardinals. Do you want to take a guess as to why that is? Because he went to the Dallas Cowboys, and Bill Bidwell holds a grudge, and Michael Bidwell, unfortunately, has to carry that for his dad. So I love pieces like this, Craig, because it shows, hopefully, Michael Bidwell, who will come across this article, Jackie Smith is rooting for the Cardinals. He's rooting for Trey McBride, and that's a good look. It's a good look when an Otis Anderson could reach out to a pre-existing running back for the team. A Fitzgerald can talk about Marvin. Jackie Smith is really it before Trey McBride. Like, with all due respect to the other tight ends that have come and gone, like, this is the passing of the baton. Yet, Craig, it's only taken, 40 plus years for the Cardinals to get viable at tight end again. So we have been overdue in Arizona.
That's a subject for another story. One that's been written a few times since there's been a lot of occasion to actually write that story. The history of this franchise's tight end position is just god awful. It's unbelievable. Bo and I were talking about some of the names that have come through here. I don't want to throw shade at any of these guys, but I mean, like 400 yards was a big season for a Cardinals tight end. It's just crazy to think about what has come here in the past, and it's nice to see it finally shifting into the modern era.
It really is. I mean, Trey McBride, the one thing he does have franchise-wise, as far as the record goes, single season catches. Because as you mentioned with Jackie Smith, it didn't take very many. Trey McBride's 81 catches last season is a single season franchise record for the Arizona Cardinals and beyond. I mean, it's pretty impressive. But then he's got, when you look at the yardage marks of the top 7, Jackie Smith has 6 of them now. 6 of them. I mean, what as far as where Jackie Smith is now, you said that he was going to be, on the forefront of those cheering on Trey McBride. What else did you learn from him?
Yeah, it's first off, when I reached out to try and get in touch with Jackie Smith, everybody associated with him said, this guy is just salt of the earth. He's one of the best human beings you'll ever talk to, which is another reason he should be in the Ring of Honor, because he's a good human being aside from what he accomplished in a Cardinals jersey. But what a story this is. He's been working for the past 5 years on getting this replica of the Vietnam War Memorial built in Perryville, Missouri, as he says it. I could listen to him say it a million times. This is what's been just eating up his time. The man is 84 years old, but he's doing all he can to help this get going, all the associated exhibits. This is very meaningful to him. But he's still incredibly lucid. He's funny. He was a spectacular interview. Honestly, guys, I think we should have him on the show at some point, especially if Trey gets close to the record. It'd be unbelievable to have him in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Did he start paying attention to what Trey was doing last year? Did people around him say, hey, Dad, hey, Grandpa, turn this on? Because this is the first time that people have associated greatness with a tight end since the late 70s with the Arizona Cardinals, then the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah. He said he gets emails. He reads some stories, but he hasn't been keeping close tabs. But he promised after this that he's going to be following. He's going to be his biggest rooter. He wants to see him break the record, which is incredible in and of itself, right? If I set a record, I'm not sure I want anyone to come along, even centuries later when I'm dead, and break my record. This guy's like rooting for a guy to break his records. He said that's what they're there for. It's something to shoot for, and he's going to be following his career much more closely. Now, he even said, I'd love to get him on the phone, or I'd love to talk to him in person. Hopefully, somebody in the Cardinals organization can make that happen. I have an idea who.
And Trey McBride, I think, would certainly oblige. He seems like it, right? You were there a couple of weeks ago when Trey McBride kind of took the podium and answered some questions, kind of leading up to, or the continued, I guess, coverage throughout the offseason that the Cardinals have provided us with. Trey McBride seems like he would be somebody open to that. And that's encouraging to see. It's crazy to think that Jackie Smith, his phone has been just dormant for 40 plus years, nearly 50 years, because there hasn't even been anybody to have a conversation like this about, like, no, you said all due respect. I'll be a little bit more blunt. Like Rob Hauser, we weren't saying, hey, what do we think? Rob Hauser going to approach 1,200 yards in a season? I mean, he got to like 400. Leonard Pope, who was the kid out of Notre Dame that
Troy
they took?
Nicholas.
Troy Nicholas. He
was supposed to be a stud. He was supposed. Troy Nicholas was supposed to be the next coming.
Right.
Greg, I don't know if you've ever seen the footage. Bo and I were in studio with Frank Sanders on day 2 of the draft. We were in our old studio. It was about 1,000 degrees, and they hadn't made a pick yet in that draft. They had traded a first-round pick for Hollywood Brown. So it gotten leaked that it was going to be Trey McBride, and we all just kind of looked collectively outside of Frank, and we're like, I don't know about this. Not because we didn't think highly of Trey McBride, but because, to Bo's point, that position has been so snake-bitten for this franchise. Like, other franchises trotting out the likes of like Travis Kelce and company, like, we didn't even fathom what that could look like. So then you fast forward to last year, and we're sitting around, it's like late November, early December. It's like, well, this is what it feels like to be viable at this position in the year of our football Lord 2023. It's just we're immune to that. We haven't had that benefit before.
I wanted to ask you guys about last season too, because this was sort of a changing of the guard. Zach Ertz was here, Bo and I were talking a little about this, but he didn't get the benefit of a full season. He had to sort of, take advantage of an injury situation and then prove himself. So it wasn't even like that franchise record was set by playing a full season. So it's not unreasonable to think he could do more this season. But I'm curious how that all went down in your eyes.
I really think that a guy like Zach Ertz, and I'm trying to be respectful because he's had a Pro Football Hall of Fame caliber career. I think that they were kind of giving him the respect and kind of gave him a hall pass to kind of operate on his own schedule, unlike the rest of the organization. Like, you had guys coming off significant knee injuries that they made sure were on the right program, where Zach Ertz, they were just like, oh, you want to come back? You have a comeback date of the season opener? Wow. Sure, do it. Yeah, you got a spot. We'll give you the PT. And until they realize, and I think it started week 1, like, oh, we might have made a mistake here and delaying the development and the maturation of our young second-year tight end and Trey McBride, and giving these snaps to Zach Ertz. The pass from Joshua Dobbs in the first game of the season, Johnny, that would have been a touchdown and probably would have been the winning score for the Cardinals. I mean, that just started, I think an early exit for Zach Ertz, and what should have been kind of more of a swan song for him than it was.
Yeah, and I don't want to put words in JG's mouth, but you got to imagine, like, him coming to this team, foreign to a lot of the Cardinal players, and then there's a familiar face from Philadelphia that has helped them win a Super Bowl and has been a consummate pro in their locker room. So we get it, and we understood it at the time. And, to Ertz's defense, like, he was healthy at times during the preseason. Trey McBride had, a soft tissue injury he was working his way back from. Yeah. But the handing of the baton took way too long. They missed out on some opportunities. But, man, you mentioned it. Like, when he took over, it just looked
different. I think Ertz dropped the baton. I think he dropped it when he was trying to transfer
on it. They buried it, and then we had to start over. And we're back from the dead now at the tight end position with Trey McBride. But, again, like we rip on Dallas's tight end a lot, Craig, on this show. His last name's Ferguson. We call him Turd Ferguson a lot because he made the Pro Bowl last year over Trey McBride, which was an egregious error. But Dallas, their fan base, pumping him up. But then you watch the difference between the two players, and you look beyond the box score. Turd Ferguson's got the benefit of CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott's a career year. They've got Brandon Cooks. They've got a ton of weapons there to kind of scheme him open. And it felt like most of his yards and his yak and his touchdowns were manufactured by a good offense. Trey McBride was the Cardinal offense for large stretches last year. There's a great photo in Craig's article. I'd encourage everybody to go check it out. It's the touchdown that Trey McBride had to score effectively twice in consecutive plays in Pittsburgh, where he caught a touchdown, they waved it off, he caught it again on the 1 yard line and barreled his way in. Like his ability to get yards after catch, his physicality, the game-winning catch to set up the field goal against Atlanta, a comebacker to save Kyler Murray on the run. Just like that is how you ingratiate yourself with a fan base. Like anybody can put up hollow numbers, but how infactual and important Trey McBride's statistics were on a team that was desperately just trying to be viable on Sunday. I think that speaks to the kind of player he is.
And that sort of old school mentality of yards after the catch is something that resonates with Jackie. We talked about that a little bit, and he's in an era when a guy like Mike Ditka is also playing, where you've seen all the highlights where he catches the ball, 3 yards off the line and then just runs over 5 guys to get the yards. That definitely resonates with Jackie Smith, because that's the kind of ball that he liked to play.
Yeah, and Jackie talked in your article during your time you guys spoke about just the evolution of the position where you're sitting right there next to a tackle and trying to block an edge rusher.
Basically, what you do. You're a blocker.
You're a blocker, and then if maybe a play breaks down, you leak out, you get a catch. But now, I mean, did you get to ask him about where the position is now, and like tight end university is a thing? And like, I mean, the old school tight end university going way back, it would have been just him and Dick, and that's it.
Yeah. And I loved what he said about that too, about, lining up wide. He said, I would have given up my position on the front line in hell to be able to line up 6 yards away with nobody contesting me getting downfield. Yeah. He would have loved that. But he wasn't trying to throw shade on any of the tight ends. Now it's just, he loves the evolution of the game, and he would have loved to have the chance to play in that. I wonder what he would have had, like yards per catch, if that had been the case, because his stats are ridiculous.
So it is funny, Craig, you're joining us, and I'm so fired up you're joining us for a multitude of reasons, but partially because Trey McBride, and we're talking about him as a newbie, he is the most tenured pass catcher for the Arizona Cardinals. He's about to enter his 3rd year. He's being paid no money in relation to guys like Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. And then you've got right behind him as a 2nd-year player, Michael Wilson. And then, oh, by the way, right behind him, Marvin Harrison Jr. as a rookie. I mean, can you sense the time you spent now in the locker room for a little bit, in the press conferences, how green these players are, and the fact that they could be on the cusp of really putting together the first youthful, complete receiving core this team has had in probably like 20 years since Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden were here?
Yeah, there's so much buzz about it too, Johnny. This is as excited as I've seen people. Listen, I've followed this franchise, even though I haven't covered the last few years. I've been keeping tabs. Once you cover a team, you keep tabs on them, and there does feel like there's that sort of excitement. We've talked about this so many times, and Drew Petzing even talked about it when he spoke the other day about how you're going to distribute the ball. He even said, he joked, we're going to petition the NFL for 2 footballs. You've heard that joke before, but there are a lot of weapons here, and it is a legitimate concern. Not a concern, but you really have to game plan and figure out how you're going to work all these weapons. He talked about, you remember what he said, some of it's contingent on who you're playing, who's hot. There are a variety of factors that come into this, but you got a lot of guys who want their touches.
Right.
And they deserve their touches.
And it's a game of matchups, right? And trying to find mismatches out there. And what we saw on a consistent basis with Trey McBride is with his athleticism at the tight end position is the ability to just take advantage of a lot of NFL safeties, even guys that are held within high regard. And Kyler Murray's, I would bet, is going to continue to expose that, even with having an embarrassment of riches on the outside with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson. It's a good position to be in. And like you talk about the youth movement, Johnny, I mean, Trey McBride's the elder statesman in that tight end room by a lot now. I mean, you brought in your guy, Tip Ryman, who's going to be a rookie. And then you've got Elijah Higgins, who's entering his 2nd season as a pro, but he hasn't been playing the tight end. He's only been playing the tight end position his first professional season.
So, Craig, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So you will undoubtedly be involved in our fantasy football league here at PHNX Sports.
Oh, no.
In 2024. He has to. You can't be on this beat, not participate. And I'm going to tell you right now, give me your list. I'm going to ask you of tight ends that you feel like could go above Trey McBride, like in the NFL landscape. I'm going to put you on the spot because I have an idea of where he should go, where he should be as a tight end hierarchy in the NFL. Are there any tight ends that come to mind for you that go above Trey?
There are not many. I will say this, and what I will say is, I'm really anxious to see what he can do as the guy.
Yeah.
For an entire season. And when I look at that mark, the 1,200-yard mark, I'm pretty sure he's going to get there this season. That's what I would say. I think he's got a really good chance to break Jackie's record, which would be an unbelievable story. You just don't see this happen very often, right? In the game where you're covering a guy having a record-setting season. It's a really cool story. It's a great evolution, as we've talked about, for the Cardinals tight end position, one that is long overdue. I'm not going to answer your question. I'm dodging your question. I think it's pretty obvious
correctly
at this point.
With 1,200 yards, he would be tight end 1. So you are correct. He is tight end 1 in the NFL.
He could be.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend's pretty good.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Yeah, it's they definitely fit in one hand. I would say that if you're even considering other guys.
I am out on the old guys, as Bo knows, like George Kittle. Yeah. I'm out on him. I'm out on Travis Kelce. Like you can see, there is a path for Trey McBride to get to 1,200 yards this year.
Yeah.
Again, he started 12 games last year, Bo. I mean, it's unthinkable to think about the best year a Cardinal tight end has had since the early 70s, and he only started 12 games.
Yeah. Your disrespect for the older people on this program has me concerned for your parents' well-being. Like you're probably going to be a little
has me personally concerned too.
Quick trigger to put them in a home or something like that. You're like, oh, are you losing a little bit? Let's just get you right now into a home.
I have no issue with that, and I'm not going to push back at all. Listen, there's ageism that's involved, absolutely. Specifically for my players that I'm trying to win games with. It's a young man's league, and we talked about that earlier in the show. Just the fact that Cardinals have a youth movement right now, and so many times, Craig, I've watched this team sign over-the-hill players. You saw it again when you were covering the team in the early to mid-2000s. It's like, who can we give $30 million guaranteed that had success elsewhere that can help sell tickets? Hello, Edgerrin James, right? Yeah. Hello, Chris Johnson once upon a time, most recently with A.J. Green and Rodney Hudson and even D-Hop. Like, this is the first time. It's like my pretty new pet. I have all these players, these entities that are under 25 now. It's a rare feeling for Cardinal fans.
So is he one off your board? Is he number one?
I would take him. I would have him over everybody else at this point.
You're the number one McBridesmaid, though.
Okay,
I am. Yeah,
I also want to point out, Johnny, I was not covering the team in the early to mid 2000s. So thanks for trying to age me a little more than I already am. I appreciate it.
I consider like the Super Bowl year mid 2000s, even though it was
that was his first. That was your first year covering the team, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, and that was like the Leonard Pope days, and it didn't get any better beyond that.
I'll tell you what doesn't get any better. Waking up to a Craig Morgan article, go PHNX.com. Check out his most recent work, Cardinals Trey McBride chasing Jackie Smith's legend. Hell yes.